I love reboots and remakes. I felt like I need to say this because this is gonna be important. Anyway, The Lion King is directed by Jon Favreau, the man behind Iron Man and The Jungle Book, and it has an all-star cast consisting of Donald Glover, Beyonce, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Baron Mordo, and a whole bunch of others. Mind you, I saw the Danish version, meaning I got an entirely different cast. And on that note, Lars Mikkelsen as Scar is amazing. It just felt like you should all know that. The story centers on a young lion named Simba who just can't wait to be king of his home, the Pride Lands. But his life is turned upside down when his father, the King Mufasa, is murdered by his jealous brother Scar. Simba blames himself for his father's death and he runs off, where he befriends the laid-back duo of Timon and Pumbaa. Many years later he reunites with his childhood friend Nala and returns to take back his kingdom. If that sounds like a faithful retelling of The Lion King, you'd be right. It is very faithful. Too faithful. Way too faithful. Like I said before, Jon Favreau also did The Jungle Book, and that movie did a pretty damn good job at staying faithful while also doing things differently. I imagine they did this because, no offense, Lion King is probably a lot more iconic than Jungle Book. Maybe they were afraid to try something different, but as we know...
But then if you're too respectful of it, that you daren't do anything new or different, take a risk, then what are you bringing to the table?
Yeah, that. I don't mind when a movie I like is remade, or a concept or a character is rebooted. In fact, I like that. I like seeing new interpretations of things. But it only works if something new is done, if something new is added. To me, this is where the movie falls apart. But yeah, technically the story is good, about as good as the original, because, you know, it is the original. It's basically the same thing beat for beat. But there's just no reason for me to watch this movie then, because... you know, I have the original if I wanted to hear this story. Okay, on to the characters. So Simba is... he's kind of boring, honestly, in both movies. Like, when we meet Simba as a kid, he's just kind of your average rebellious, treat me like an adult, gotta prove myself sort of character. Adult Simba is more of this sort of uncaring, laid-back, chill dude sort of character. He does seem to want to believe in a higher order and want to believe in the idea of, you know, responsibility. And all this sort of, you know, comes together in that scene he has with Rafiki, but that's still not interesting. It's not all that interesting. Nala is in the movie. She sure is in the movie. That's it. Mufasa is something I can definitely call a downgrade. I'm not sure what it is, but it feels like something's missing with his character. In fact, I believe that the bit where he explains the circle of life, you know, like the grass, the antelope, and the predators, I think that's been cut. Like, I don't remember having it. And that kind of feels like that's sort of the issue I have with Mufasa here. He's just kind of... like, he's just there to die. Like, he doesn't feel like he leaves all that much of an impression. Timon and Pumbaa. I mean, look, you're either gonna love or hate them. And to be fair, right, like, Pumbaa only exists to do fart jokes. Both here and in the original movie. But at the same time, he and Timon have, you know, like, they have this chemistry, right? The way they work off each other, I think, is what kind of salvages them from being like, well, fart joke guys. And, I mean, they're not much. They are really just comic relief, but I think they're good comic reliefs. And then there is Scar. Scar is the one thing I can say, without a doubt in my mind, is an actual improvement. And no, it's not just because of Lars Mikkelsen in the Danish version. Like, I'm sure Ejiofor is just as great, but in this movie, he feels more competent. Oh, well, sometimes. He still does that thing where, like, he lets Simba run off instead of killing him. I don't know what the fuck that's about. But he feels more intimidating, and I kind of prefer this sort of sneering sociopath more than the sort of foppish Scar from the original. And that's about it for the characters. And I feel like this is kind of like a shared weak point between both this movie and the original. And now comes the big thing, right? Like the visuals and the music and such. This movie is gorgeous. I'm not gonna lie, the opening was an experience for sure. It's just a replica of the original, right? But this is one of the things I don't mind them keeping. The song over the otherwise silent characters, the iconic shots, the title card. And then they start speaking. Why is that an issue? The animation of the faces is too real. This means the animals only emote as much as their real counterparts, and most animals just don't have the emotional range needed for a movie like this. Now, personally, I believe the problem lies with the eyebrows. Like the eyes, they're way too still, because the eyebrows don't move much. A character like Simba, right? Like in this movie, he can look happy or sad or scared, but he isn't expressive enough to be very happy or very sad or very scared. And Lion King is a very emotionally driven movie. A good example of how to do this would be Detective Pikachu, right? Like, look at his face. It's been giving these facial muscles that allow for a better use of his eyebrows. That's sort of like what not Lion King needed. I know that's technically not, realistic. That's like, lions don't have that kind of eyebrows and such, but they're kind of like, not so much, like actual like eyebrows, but like the muscle behind the eyebrow. That's what was needed. But like I said, like visually, the movie does look amazing, and the music is great. It's just as good as it was in the original. Except, my boy Scar got totally scammed when it comes to Be Prepared, but outside of that, the movie, has just as great music as the original, in my opinion. And I think that's all I have to say about Lion King, really. Like, the biggest issue with this film is that it doesn't really have enough strength in any of the aspects. Like, the story isn't different enough, the characters aren't different enough, and the visuals, while, visually stunning, is missing too much emotion. The movie doesn't give me enough of a reason to come back to this version versus the original. And I wanted to like both versions. I'm totally capable of liking more than one version of a story. It just isn't good enough. But at the same time, it's not absolutely horrendous either. The elements it lifts do save it from being as miserable to sit through as something like Maleficent or Beauty and the Beast. So The Lion King is okay, like a 6 out of 10 kind of movie. Has huge potential, but the people behind it seem way too afraid to take enough risks.